We have went over how there must be one truth, absolute truth. Therefore, either theism or atheism or pantheism or polytheism, one of them is true. They can't all be true, one of them is true. We went over the three arguments for God. The cosmological argument, the beginning. We went over the teleological argument, which is the design. We also went over the moral argument, okay? And we proved God through all of these. The next step now are, how can we ever believe in miracles? People are going to call us out and say, you really believe the stuff in the Bible? You really believe the Lord rose from the dead? Let's discuss. Are miracles possible?
The third question, after truth and God, are miracles. How can we believe in miracles? When you go to college, you'll be mocked for believing in miracles. Think miracles actually occur? You think Jonah actually happened? Is that a tail of a whale or a whale of a tail? What's the deal with Jonah? You think a resurrection could actually occur? We don't believe in miracles anymore. That's all superstitious nonsense. But let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Anybody in here? What's the greatest miracle in the Bible? It's not the resurrection. Resurrection's easy. What is the greatest miracle in the Bible? The greatest miracle in the Bible is the first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If that verse is true, every other verse is at least possible, right? I mean, if it's true that God created the heavens and the earth out of nothing, can he do whatever he wants? It's not logically impossible inside the heavens and the earth? Of course. Well, we now have scientific evidence and even philosophical evidence. I don't have time to get into it here. But we have that evidence that the universe had a beginning. Even atheists are admitting this. Well, if the first verse is true, every other verse is at least possible. If God can create the universe out of nothing, can he raise Jesus from the dead? Yes. Can he keep Jonah alive in a fish for 3 days? Can he do the Noah miracle? Can he part the Red Sea? Can he make axe heads float in water? Can he walk on water? That's easy for God to create the universe out of nothing. Now, the other objection, in fact, when people say, I don't believe in miracles, I normally say, look around, you're living in one. This universe is a miracle. But secondly, people don't believe in miracles anymore. Why? Because they've never seen one. Well, why should you expect to see a miracle? Miracles, by definition, have to be rare. If they were happening all the time, they wouldn't be miracles. They'd be natural events. Miracles have to be rare to get our attention. And the greatest miracle after the creation of the universe in the Bible is the resurrection. Let me ask you a question. If resurrections were occurring all the time, what would the resurrection of Christ mean to us? I mean, if people were popping up from the dead routinely, it would be no big deal, right? You go to somebody and you go, hey, Jesus rose from the dead for your sins. And the guy goes, well, so what? Uncle George just rose from the dead 2 weeks ago. You know, now I got to give the inheritance back. You'd go, no, they have to be rare if they're going to get our attention, and miracles are rare for that very reason. When we add these three arguments up now, the cosmological, teleological, and moral arguments, we can draw some conclusions about God. In fact, from these three arguments, from the cosmological argument, we can see that this being is immaterial, timeless, and spaceless. Why? Because he created material, time, and space, so he can't be made of material, time, and space. Secondly, this being is also extremely powerful because he created out of nothing. Do you realize that we always create out of pre-existing material? God creates out of nothing. What rocks dream about? Nothing, non-being. Also, this being is intelligent because this universe, as we've seen, is designed, and so are you. The being also sustains creation and has purpose. In fact, we'll talk about the sustaining aspect of God tomorrow night. From the moral argument, we can see he's absolutely morally perfect, and he's also personal. How do we know he's personal from the moral argument? Because you only have a moral obligation to persons. You don't have a moral obligation to impersonal forces. If you go try and, say, dunk a basketball, you're not sinning against the law of gravity. Right? You only sin against persons. We also know this being is personal from the cosmological argument because, as I said before, in order to go from a state of nothingness to a state of creation, someone had to make a choice, and only persons make choices. Again, impersonal forces like gravity don't make choices. They don't decide what to do. They just do the same thing over and over again. Now, take a look at this. We have an immaterial, timeless, spaceless, extremely powerful, extremely intelligent, sustaining creator who has purpose, who's absolutely morally perfect and personal. This is the God of biblical Christianity identified without reference to the Bible. We haven't even opened the Bible yet, and we have a being that looks like the God of the Bible. Now, are we sure it's the God of the Bible at this point? No. Why? What we seem to be sure of, again, if our reasoning is good to this point, we seem to be sure of the fact that we have a theistic God. Remember we started here with these three categories? If theism is true, what does that say about pantheism and atheism? They can't be true. Law of non-contradiction, right? We talked about this last night. Opposite ideas cannot be both true at the same time and in the same sense. So if theism is true, the question is, which theism is true? Is it Judaism, Christianity, or Islam? For that, we'd have to go another step.
Let's discuss Dr. Frank Turk. This is the Orthodox Project. Let's start.
If God wanted to tell us which theistic God is true, what could he do that only he could do that would get our attention? He could do a miracle, and that's point 3. Let's start by asking the question, before there were any mass communications, let's say go back 500 years or so, if one king wanted to communicate with another king across a great distance, how would he do it? He would do what? Send a message, right? And what would be on that message that would authenticate that the message actually came from the king? A seal, right? There would be a seal up in the corner that would seal the message as truly coming from the king. And that message would ensure that the recipient actually is getting a message from the true king. It would seem to me that that seal would have to have a couple of characteristics. Number one, it would have to be unique to the king, right? Because if everybody had it, obviously they could send false messages from the king. And secondly, it would have to be difficult to forge, because if you could forge it, then you could make your own seal and send false messages from the king. So, Jesus and the apostles, Elijah and Moses, they're doing miracles because God has given them the ability to do miracles to confirm to people that they truly speak for God. Now, here's the problem in our culture today. Many people don't believe in miracles. They think miracles are impossible or just too outlandish to believe, like Noah and the ark. How can you believe in Noah's ark? I mean, come on. That just seems crazy, doesn't it? Noah's ark? Please, I want to talk here about Noah's ark for a second. We went 55 miles northwest of Tehran into the Elburz Mountains. We got to an area where we were told there could be the remains of Noah's ark, and we saw this strange formation sticking out of the side of a mountain at 13,125 feet. We got up to it. It looked like it could have been planking from an old boat. We touched it, and it was rock. So we brought samples off of it and took them back to the United States, and 5 out of the 9 samples tested as petrified wood. But we can't prove it's Noah's Ark because it didn't say USS Noah on the side. Right? I mean, how could you? I don't know what it was. It could have been a geologic formation, but it was interesting anyway. And resurrections people have a trouble believing in, right? I mean, everyone I know who's dead is still dead, right? You know anyone who's dead who's now alive? I don't know anybody. Maybe there's somebody out there, but everyone I know who's dead is still dead. And for some reason, the big problem miracle in the Bible is Jonah. Is that a tail of a whale or a whale of a tail? I mean, what is the deal with Jonah? How can you believe in Jonah? Doesn't that seem crazy? I mean, really? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what is the greatest miracle in the Bible? People say the resurrection. No, the resurrection's easy compared to the greatest miracle. No, Jonah's easy. Yeah, someone said it back there. The greatest miracle in the Bible is the first verse. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, right? I mean, if that miracle is true, if that verse is true, every other verse is at least possible, right? I mean, if it's true that God created the heavens and the earth out of nothing, can he do whatever he wants? It's not logically impossible inside the heavens and the earth? Can he raise Jesus from the dead if he can create the whole universe? Can he do the Noah miracle? Can he do the Jonah miracle? These are easy for God to create the universe out of nothing. Now, here's the amazing thing. We have good scientific evidence and philosophical evidence the first verse of the Bible is true. So if that's true, maybe these other verses are true. You just can't philosophically rule it out as so many in our culture today do. They say, no, this can't happen. It doesn't happen. Miracles don't occur. Look, if Genesis 1:1 is true, every other verse might be true as well. You just can't rule it out in advance, as so many do. Now, I just said something a minute ago that you might not agree with. I said God can do anything he wants that's not logically impossible. And you're probably thinking, well, I thought God being all-powerful, he could do whatever he wants. No, there's some things God can't do. Like what? He can't do logically impossible things. Like what? Like he can't create a square circle, right? Doesn't exist. Can't create a one-ended stick. Logical impossibility. Doesn't exist. Can't create a married bachelor. Some guys try, but no. Doesn't exist. Can't create an honest politician. Okay? There's some things that are just too hard for God, right? In fact, you can do some things that God can't do. What can you do that he can't do? Lie, right? Change. What's he going to change from? He's already the standard of perfection. Any change would necessitate a move from perfection to imperfection. He can't change. He's this unchangeable standard by which everything else is measured. So you can do things God can't do, but if he could do those things, he wouldn't be God. That would make him actually weaker. You've probably heard this too. Can God create a rock so big he can't lift it? This is supposed to be a conundrum, right, for Christians. Like, whoa, yeah, we seem to be limiting God's power. Either way we answer. But what we have to do when you get something like that is you got to ask questions. Don't try and answer it right away. Can God make a rock so big he can't lift it? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by a rock? What is a rock? In fact, you could ask the question this way. How big is the rock? And the person goes, well, big. Big. How big is big? Really big. How big is really big? Infinitely big. Now, what have they just done? They've just traversed, in what we call in logic, into a category mistake. What's a category mistake? A category mistake is when you're confusing two categories. You can't have an infinitely big, finite rock. Do you see? Anything that's finite can't be infinite. And every rock is finite. So no matter how big God creates the rock, he can lift it. But even God can't create an infinite, finite rock. It's like creating a square circle or a one-ended stick. It's a category mistake. What are other category mistakes? What does blue taste like? You say blue is not a taste. That's right. I'm asking you a taste question about a non-taste thing. See, that's a category mistake. You may know things that are blue that taste like something, but it's not because they're blue they taste like that, right? Blue doesn't give it a taste. Or, how many molecules are in justice, like I mentioned earlier? How much carbon is in the justice molecule? You go, wait a minute. Justice isn't a material thing. But I'm asking a material question about an immaterial thing. That's a category mistake. Or, you've probably heard this. Where was the man when he jumped off the bridge? Where was the man? No, on the bridge. That was before he jumped. You say he was in the air. That's after he jumped. Where was the man when he jumped off the bridge? It's a category mistake. You're asking a pinpoint question about a process, right? You know where the man was? He was beside himself. Category mistakes are, you got to be able to recognize these. All right? So, these miracles are possible if the greatest miracle has already occurred. Now, we haven't gotten to the New Testament yet. We will. But let's say, for the sake of argument, the New Testament documents are reliable. Do you notice that Jesus relates two of the most controversial miracles of the Old Testament to his own life? Jonah and Noah. Do you think Jesus thought Jonah and Noah were historical or hysterical? He thought they were historical. Look, if Jesus has really risen from the dead, then I just believe whatever he says. That's my policy. If a guy rises from the dead, I'm going to believe what he says. And if he said Jonah and Noah actually occurred, I'm going with that. And obviously, if God can create the universe out of nothing, he can do Noah and Jonah. Not a problem. You believe in a lot of things you've never seen, right? You believe in your mind. Have you ever seen it? You're using it right now, at least I hope. You believe in the laws of logic. Ever seen those? You believe in the laws of mathematics. Ever seen those? You believe in gravity. Have you ever seen gravity? Nope. Oh, yeah, sure, Frank, there it is. Nope. You're not seeing gravity. What are you seeing? You're seeing the effects of gravity. We don't even know what gravity is. Did you know that? We don't even know what energy is. Some of you work in the energy industry. What do you do? I don't know. I don't even know what it is. Somehow it gets us places, though. Keeps the lights on. There's a lot of things we don't even know, that we don't even see, and we believe in them. You believe in King George III. Have you ever seen him? No, you believe in a lot of things you haven't seen. And by the way, you shouldn't expect to see a lot of miracles. Why? You've already told us why. Miracles, by definition, have to be rare. If they were regular, we'd consider them some part of natural law, right? We'd go, hey, this stuff happens all the time. What's the big deal? One other thing about miracles that we need to talk about, and that is, a miracle is God overpowering a natural law. We overpower natural laws. I'm overpowering a natural law right now. What is it? Gravity, right? If I can overpower a natural law, can the being who created the natural law overpower it? Of course. The question is, when does he do it? He doesn't do it randomly. He does it for specific purposes. In Bible times, it was done to secure a new revelation, to let you know that this person speaks for God and you ought to listen to him. Today, he may do it for other reasons, to give somebody faith to believe or to heal somebody that needs to be healed. But he doesn't do it for random reasons. He doesn't do it for entertainment reasons. In fact, I was talking to Pastor Dye over lunch, and he made the point that sometimes miracles may not be done for reasons of mercy. You say, how can that be? He had mentioned that if you look in the Bible, Jesus says about Chorazin and Bethsaida, he said if the miracles were done in Tyre that were done here, they would have believed, but you didn't. Now you're under greater judgment. Think about that. That you might be under greater judgment if a miracle occurs and you don't respond to it. God may be merciful for not bringing a miracle into your life, because if he did bring a miracle into your life, you still wouldn't trust him. And then you're even more culpable.
How many people saw the Lord doing so many miracles on a day-to-day basis? So many, thousands. The entire area knew he's healing the sick, he's raising people from the dead, he's healing leopards, he's opening the eyes of the blind. And guess what? His 12 disciples were healing the sick also. They were having the power to bring out devils. They were able to do a lot of these miracles themselves. And guess who didn't believe? Judas. And all the learned, all the Pharisees and the scribes. Of course, some of them, like Nicodemus, believed. But, again, some perished, like Judas. And the Lord said what? It would be better for him not to have been born, because he had the chance, and he saw and he touched and he saw the Lord, and he was able to truly see everything. He saw the miracles. He saw Lazarus like rising from the dead. That alone should do it. You think? No, because miracles. If you saw a miracle right now, I guarantee you, half of us would not believe. The other half, maybe would doubt. And we would still mess up after. That's greater judgment. And that's why God is merciful on us. And he doesn't allow us to go through something like that, where, again, as Dr. Frank Turk just said, if we go through something like that and we see a miracle, we see the Lord, we see his power, we see his glory, we're going to do either one of two things. We're either going to start following the Lord because of fear, and he doesn't want that. He wants us to follow him because of love, not fear. So that's one option. We start following him with fear, or we don't follow him and our condemnation is greater, and it would be better for us not to have been born. So when we think, oh, if I only see God in person, or if he appears to me, then I would believe. That is the trick that Satan wants you to be falling in, because I guarantee you, and I'm telling you this because I know people that saw things before and they returned to their same life. Seeing things does not and will not automatically, just magically make you a saint. Being a saint, being truly walking the holy life, walking in Christ, that takes commitment, and that takes a personal decision, and that takes fight, and that takes being in Christ and united with him, and through his grace we will get there. But we can't just depend on miracles. Miracles are not everything. Miracles are for unbelievers. What does that mean? Miracles are for people outside the church to get into the door, to realize, hey, something big is happening here. And that's what God did with us, right? When he rose from the dead, or again, when the apostles were healing, or all that good stuff. But when, for example, the disciples of Jesus came to him, and Philip told Jesus what? Show us the Father. Jesus was not happy with the question. He told him what? You have already seen him. You've seen me. I am the image of the Father. If you're not going to believe me, you're not going to believe him either. Even if he shows himself. That's it. You can't handle this. Handle me. Okay? Same thing in 1 Corinthians 14. 1 Corinthians 14, St. Paul is speaking, and he's talking about all these signs, right? And he's talking about, hey, one of the signs is speaking in tongues, right? And that was a way for people to like, oh shoot, right? They have the power of God. And he was telling people, hey, even if you know how to speak in signs, you don't do it among believers, because signs, like speaking in tongues or like anything else, are for unbelievers. If you read with me, 1 Corinthians 14:22. Therefore tongues are for a sign, not to those who believe, but to unbelievers. But prophesying meaning teaching, prophesying is not for unbelievers, but for those who believe. Again, you can search, you can trust me on what prophesying means, or you can search it yourself and search the Greek and search all that good stuff. But prophesying in the New Testament means teaching, right? Again, signs and wonders and miracles are for unbelievers to believe. Once we're in, right? Once we, all right, this may be true here. I need to take, as we said in the very first video when we were talking about absolute truth, we need to start believing in Christ, and we need to jump. We need that leap of faith. Again, I can know about all the chemistry and all the bio and all the physics and all everything, but that doesn't mean I trust in any of them, right? I can know about the chemistry of the sea, but unless I jump in the sea and start swimming, I will not be able to swim. I need to take that leap of faith and eventually realize, hey, they're all telling me that, hey, the sea will carry me. The salt water will carry me, and the chemistry of the sea works in a way that will allow me to swim. Water will carry me. I can know about all of that, but if I'm not actually going to jump, I'm not going to be able to swim. Same idea. If I'm not going to be able to take this leap of faith, I'm not going to be able to experience God and see Him and live with Him and enjoy Him. If I don't take this leap of faith, useless, right? All these miracles are useless, and that's why, again, miracles don't convert. Miracles open doors. Conversion happens on the inside. When I willingly say, Lord, like St. Paul says, Lord, what do you want me to do? So again, miracles are for unbelievers. That's why, again, miracles are not something that happens every day. Because again, people like Judas saw miracles. They didn't believe. Actually had greater condemnation. God doesn't want us to go through that. God gives everyone according to what everybody needs for his own salvation. If God thinks you need a miracle in order to convert, maybe a miracle would happen. But if He doesn't think so, if He thinks maybe you don't need it, you can convert without it. Actually, a miracle would put more on your plane and more pressure on your plane. It will get you more scared and will get you more judgment eventually. Then He's not going to give you that. God is merciful. So let's trust His mercies and let's not ask for signs. Let's not run after signs. We're not running after miracles. We're not seeking miracles. Miracles are for unbelievers. As Jesus told Thomas, Thomas, because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. When we believe without seeing, our crown is so much bigger. Let's trust in that.
Now you might say, well, if miracles are possible and the greatest miracle, the creation of the universe, has already occurred, why don't more scientists believe in miracles? This is Richard Lewontin. He's an atheist, Darwinist, Marxist. He's got a lot of "is" after his name. He teaches at Harvard University. About 20 years ago, he had a very big moment of clarity when he admitted why he and others in the scientific community don't believe in miracles. Here's what he said. It's not that the methods and institutions of science somehow compel us to accept a material explanation of the phenomenal world, but on the contrary, that we are forced by our a priori, meaning our prior adherence to material causes, for we cannot allow a divine foot in the door. If we allow a divine foot in the door, what happens? Well, the scientists are no longer seen as the new priests who dispense truth to the general public. Secondly, if God gets His foot in the door, then we're not seen not only by the public as these paragons of virtue who are dispensing truth, but we're not going to be seen by our colleagues as reasonable, because it's really considered unreasonable to believe in miracles in the academy. Also, we're not going to get that grant money that we're due to get to do our experiments if we suggest that intelligence is involved in nature. Whoa. We're not going to get that grant money. And then there's that reason we've been talking about, morality and accountability. Morality and accountability. Aldous Huxley famously said, we choose not to believe in a creator because a creator interferes with our sexual mores. Going back to the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is money, sex, and power. Quite frequently it has to do with sex. We don't want there to be an authority above us because we want to do our own thing. Now, I'm not saying this is true of everybody. I'm simply saying that when you add up all these different motives for denying miracles, you can see why the Academy denies them. They don't want miracles to even be possible. They don't want God's foot in the door. Going back to what Pascal said, people almost invariably base their beliefs not on the basis of proof, but on the basis of what they find attractive. I want to be autonomous. I want to do my own thing. I don't want there to be an authority beyond me, so I'm going to deny that authority exists.
Miracles are for unbelievers. Once we believe, we need to start taking that leap of faith and jumping in the water and trusting that the water will carry us, trusting that the living water will carry us, trusting that the Lord will carry us. And you will for sure know that the Lord exists once you start realizing, hey, I am being carried by Him. Once you start jumping and you swim and you realize, yeah, the people outside on the shore maybe not believe it, but I know for sure that this water carries me because I'm in it, I'm swimming. And that is proof that the Lord is real, that proof that the water is real and it will carry, because again, He is the true living water. I would really recommend the book Miracles by C.S. Lewis. As you can tell, C.S. Lewis has a lot of good books on apologetics. Again, pretty good book. Read it up. Again, when I recommend the book here, I'm not really recommending theology of the book, ever actually. I'm just recommending, especially when we're talking about apologetics, right? So when we're talking about apologetics, when I recommend books, I'm not talking about the theology of the book, the Christian theology. Actually, pretty much I disagree with all the theology in the books I've recommended. I'm just talking about the apologetics, getting you through the door, right? Getting through the door to Christianity. Once we get to Christianity, then we can take that and start talking about proper theology, what the actual disciples believed, because that's what the Lord taught them. Okay, we'll go over that in the next couple units, but in this first units of apologetics, we will just discuss basics. Okay, so for now, read these books and enjoy them because they're really good in these subjects. Miracles by C.S. Lewis. This is the Orthodox Project. See you next time.